Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. Let's get right in it with the space weather update. Our solar wind speeds are coming in kind of slow right now at 336.8 kilometers per second, but the density is at 34.3. Now that's a little thicker than usual, and that's the density of the particles that are entering our atmosphere. So imagine that 34.3 is the density on this. That's thicker than usual. We are used to seeing rates between 5 and 15. So imagine that rate, and cosmic radiation dosage rates were at 8.7 with a lighter density. So still being affected, even though we have low solar activity, very thick density indeed with what's happening now. And this is an Earth-facing coronal hole that we are now facing, and a rather large sized one as well. So with the KP indices dropping down to 2, and they've been at a 3 all day today. They just recently dropped down to a 2. We all know that the seismic activity appears to be favorable from this point right now, from what we're talking, between now, the next 24 hours, and the next 72 hours. We know with KPs at 2 or lower, we know that we can expect some kind of strong seismic activity, especially with the size of this particular coronal hole. This is a decent sized coronal hole, folks. The solar stream that will be coming from this is going to be approximately on the 24th, maybe as early as late on the 23rd, which is significant because we have a glancing blow of a CME incoming on September 23rd, and we are also going to be watching for a G1 geomagnetic storm. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say on September 24th, we could be facing a G2 at maybe as high as a G3 on the 24th or 25th from this current coronal hole and solar wind stream that is about to arrive. Usually, when you see a coronal hole that wide, and it's all about the width, but also as wide as this is, that means how long is this solar wind stream going to be occurring? So the wider this is, the longer this is, and usually also that means the faster the solar winds are as well. And when you have very fast solar winds, depending on how fast they are, you will connect with geomagnetic activity in the atmosphere. So very interesting next few days to be watching.
Hey, pastors, ministers,
oh, hello. On top of the fact that we're already dealing with the Palma volcano, the one in Iceland as well, and I'll report on others here just in a second. But when we first talked about on Sunday night about this volcano going off in La Palma, we mentioned on our broadcast Friday night that I thought that this little coronal hole that was becoming Earth-facing could trigger something on the 19th, and it did. So now we're watching this volcano continuously erupt, and we're facing a chance for an impact from a minor CME, which would spark a minor G1 class, which does nothing to anything really. So it's not really to worry about, but it's just the fact that we're getting these solar storms, right, consecutively. Now throw in this solar wind that's going to be arriving from this coronal hole, and it should arrive around the same time as this CME. So that's why I think there's a chance of a G2 on the 24th of September, maybe even a G3. You're going to have to factor in CME and then reinforced by incoming solar winds that are going to come in at a pretty good clip. I would say this will be our first 650 kilometers per second. I'd be surprised if we didn't see values as high as 650 kilometers per second with this particular coronal hole. It should produce anywhere from 550 to about 650 kilometers per second. So I'd be shocked if it didn't get that rate. If it does, it's very possible to see a G2 and whatever else effects that we get from this minor CME that will be here on the 23rd. lots of solar activity to take in here that does impact seismic activity and volcanic activity. We saw the minor coronal hole. I said it could be enough to spark it, and sure enough, 2 days later, just about the same amount of time it takes for an impact from our sun, we get this eruption. KP were at 0 that day. We had an Earth-facing coronal hole. It's not a coincidence. It lines up almost every time when it comes to major eruptions. So now, the report tonight on the Palma, and let's go ahead and show you guys an image. Oh, by the way, we also have 3 sunspots. Total sunspot number is 51. So on top of the large coronal hole, the possible G1, maybe even a G2 the following day, we have 3 sunspots to deal with, and watching them closely. Right now, none of them are producing any solar flares or anything to worry about. So here is La Palma, Canary Islands, and here's the latest on this. And this was as of 1650 military time here. But it says here, as the lava flows seem to increase and new vents are feared that might open up, the town of La Laguna is now being evacuated. According to their correspondence, they're on the island, and lots of new pictures coming in. This is live, what you're looking at here. The lava fountain here, what's interesting to mention too, is when we first started showing this Sunday night, let's shrink this down a little bit. Yeah. When we started showing this on Sunday night, we also had a vent over here that was very, very active. This main vent has continued, and now we're noticing a lot more activity, and we'll tell you why here in this report as well. It says here, the eruption continues with lava fountains from the new vent that opened up last night, continuing lava flow emission. During the past hours, volcanic tremor have increased significantly, suggesting that the output rate has increased or something else is changing. It will probably become clear in the next 24 hours what is happening. During the past 24 hours, activity has been relatively stable. The advance of the fronts have slowed down, and they remained at approximately about 1 kilometer from the shore. Now, due to the fact that the flows fronts are now less in steep terrain, which causes them to be widened significantly as rather than just the progress. So, however, they are now slowly advancing through the town of Toduc and destroying it. 1,200 residents from Toduc had no choice to gather as much of their belongings as they can, only to watch their houses, streets, gardens covered by meter of advancing lava flow. There are concerns that the eruption is still far from stable, and yet more vents possibly further north could open up. Inflation has been continuing and reached 30 centimeters in places, that a sign that magma is still pressurizing, folks, and accumulating underground. This is also shown by continuing earthquake activity. Although much weaker than before the eruption, it remains significant. During the past 24 hours, there were 3 quakes of magnitudes of 3.0 to 3.8 and 12 quakes between 2.0 and 2.9. Another concern is the development of acid steam clouds should the lava flow enter the sea and cause a violent water lava explosion that generate hot steam plumes mixed with hydrochloric acid and other dangerous gases that can be harmful to people, animals, and plants. Right now, daily, the Cumbre Vieja volcano has emitted 10,665 tons of sulfur dioxide daily, reported by the scientists here. Economically, the eruption has taken a heavy toll on the island. So far, 166 buildings have been destroyed, and more than 5,500 people have been evacuated. Now, the silver lining in this situation right now, as we speak, is that we are not reporting any deaths or any missing folks yet, or any kind of injuries. People are heeding the warnings and getting the hell out of Dodge. But with that said, It continues to baffle me why villages all over the world, and folks, you don't see it here, but where my blue arrow is, there's houses. That little white dot right there, there's light fixtures, power still on in areas near this eruption. And I think it's time we start maybe taking a look at relocating ourselves away from these types of events. This is gorgeous to watch from afar, as long as it's not your house being affected, right? As long as it's not your business being affected. So it's really hard. You got to be sympathetic when you say this is amazing, it's beautiful to look at, because there's somebody else right now that's looking at this as their life is gone because everything's been destroyed. But at the same time, you got to wonder, man, we got to think about how close we live to these volcanoes. Not that anybody is going to be able to predict exactly when these things go off, and I get that. But it is a possibility. And the surprising thing is these insurance companies continue to pick up the claims. How much longer can insurance companies afford? If you live in an area that's had 6 hurricanes in the last 6 years and it completely devastates your same town over and over again, maybe it's time to move. Maybe it's time to get away from the coast. I don't know. X marks the spot for that storm. I don't know. Same thing with volcanoes. If you have continuous eruptions and your property is being destroyed, it might be time to move. As beautiful as this area is, I'm sure it's absolutely gorgeous without volcanoes blowing up. But right now, thankfully, we don't have any injuries or any loss of life at the moment. But 166 structures have been destroyed thus far, and 5,500 people evacuated, with more evacuations coming tonight for La Laguana here on the Canary Islands. And I know on Sunday we just we sat here and watched this eruption in silence a couple of times, just at amazement. Again, nature is definitely amazing what it can do. But also, you have to be sympathetic as well to the folks that are living this nightmare right now, because the reason why I'm mentioning all this, we know the impacts of solar activity on our planet and what it does to seismic activity like volcanoes and earthquakes. And we know within the next 2 to 3 days, we are expecting a minor jolt to a moderate jolt of solar activity from coronal holes, from CMEs. So it's going to be interesting here in the next couple of days, and to see them reporting as of about an hour ago that the lava flows are seeming to continue to increase. Because as of yesterday morning, if you read the article on the watchers.com or watchers.news, the official there on Monday was quoted saying things have slowed down. And they did. It did look like that. I know Mari and I checked on Monday morning, and wow, what an explosion just there. But we checked Monday morning, and also it does look different in the daylight too. But it did appear that things were kind of wrapping up a little bit for that first burst of activity. But since then, and last night we saw a little bit of an increase, not a lot, but watching this tonight and seeing how much lava we're seeing flowing out of this area, and then hearing concerns of new fissures because of the fact that we're dealing with lava, magma still pressurizing beneath the surface and accumulating. And what that means is that this thing is nowhere near over. And with the amount of space weather that we're going to be having over the next couple of days, we know to expect seismic activity. And I'll tell you, we'll go real quick back over. We'll come back to the volcano here in just in a second. But the strong earthquake here in Chile, another example of solar activity, results from solar activity. Low solar activity. No tsunami was with this particular earthquake. No major damage or any loss of life or any kind of damage right now is low because this was off to the side. But we've had a lot of earthquake action today. The coincidence is that we have low solar activity. 3.2 in New Mexico. Richard might have felt these. 2.5 in western Texas. Not that big of a deal. 2.6 in southwest of Palma, New Mexico. Some minor ones here, guys. 2.8. No big deal, right? But still kind of active, you know, in the areas that we expect to see uptick in seismic activity. So especially when we see conditions like today, and we're seeing this uptick, you know, another little mini swarm over here happening in Puerto Rico. Of course, the USGS does us no good over here, folks. That's the unfortunate part. So lots of earthquake activity. 2, make that 3 volcanic eruptions in the past 3 days. Eruption at Etna volcano ejects ash up to almost 30,000 feet. Some very interesting facts on this particular volcano I want to get to down here at the bottom. Oh, it says right here, thanks to the analysis and processing of satellite images, the southeast crater has reached now 11,014 feet and is now far taller than the older brother of the northeast crater, an undisputed summit of Etna for the last 40 years. The summit of Etna since 1980 has always been considered the northeast crater that reached a maximum height of 10,990 feet. So, this other crater here, the southeast crater, has now become the dominant crater in this volcano here. Again, low solar activity. We're getting 6.6s, 6.5s left and right today. And the worry is that La Palma is nowhere near finished. There's some daytime pictures so you can understand why things look less scary during the day, but my goodness, even this. We see 2 lava fountains here. So we've got several things to worry about when it comes to La Palma and other volcanoes. Etna is at 30,000 feet ash plume. That is not the type of event that causes global cooling. But you can't say that enough of these going on in the world doesn't contribute to cloud nucleation, which contributes to more cloud coverage, which essentially takes TSI away from the surface, leaving temperatures a little bit cooler than usual when you have excessive cloud cover. And it's not all going to hit at once. But I'm telling you, the accumulation right now, we have 3 big earthquake or volcanoes going off at the same time, and the continuous eruption here in La Palma and the Canary Islands, with more fissures expected to open and stronger eruptions possible, with that danger of the lava flow hitting the ocean. And by the way, folks, the lava flow is heading west. So I know a lot of us were watching that southern plank of the mega tsunami theory and everything like that, but right now this lava flow is heading west. So it's not reached the ocean, but if it does, and when it does, we have to make sure that that area and areas around it, I don't know what the radius is going to have to be, but I assume hundreds of miles. But we're talking about some dangerous breathing chemicals in the atmosphere due to a natural disaster. Who would have thought that hydrochloric acid could be created by a volcanic explosion by the lava meeting with the ocean? Hydrochloric acid, you would think, is something like chemtrails, right? No, this is natural, folks. Natural. The SO2, the CO2, it's all natural from this volcano. Man didn't do a thing to trigger this volcano. But from the looks of the data and the solar activity, it sounds like the sun had something to do with it. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm pointing out, I'm showing you guys here. Earth-facing crow, let's tune back in a couple of days, 2 to 3 days. Does this volcano lava fountain get bigger? Do we see 2 or 3 more vents open up? I know there was multiple reports of several vents on the first night of eruption. The truth of the matter was we had 2 vents on the 19th. The third one is feared to be opening as we speak, following a 3.8, I believe, today. But again, magma is still pressurizing underneath and accumulating still. And with the help of the sun's low solar activity and effects from cosmic rays and the effects to our magnetosphere with what the CME might bring, which will be minor, but the solar wind impact might be enough of just a jump start, just a quick bang, enough. And we have 3 new volcanoes going off right now. Will we see more volcanoes go off in 2 to 3 days on top of this? In other words, if we see 20, 30, 40 volcanoes in eruptive phase for a long period of time, and I'm really thinking that that's a possibility after we get past this maximum. Like, this is just the appetizer, folks. But once we start getting deep into this grand solar minimum by 2030s and beyond, think about these volcanoes all over in active eruptions, creating cloud nucleation, creating different climates in different regions of the world, and definitely cooling things off. Imagine that. This happening all the time, every day, accumulating cloud coverage every single day, while being bombarded by cosmic radiation, which is basically steroids for every single particulate in the atmosphere. Okay? That's the best way I can explain cosmic rays. Cosmic rays are the steroids for the particles in the atmosphere that creates precipitation of any kind. And right now, we are being bombarded, even though we're still at an 8.7% cosmic rays. We've been higher, but with a density of 34.3, we're still getting bombarded. And I think we're, by volcano discovery acknowledging that the flow of lava seems to be increasing, it's no coincidence with the fact that we're seeing some small impacts with our sun today from solar weather, and expect maybe possibly even more of an eruption in the next 2 to 3 days. I hope I'm wrong. But I'm just saying this because I don't want anybody to be surprised if this upticks just a little bit more. Now, I'm not expecting this thing to go to VEI 7 or anything like that, but it would not surprise me over the next 2 to 3 days if indeed this particular volcano does get a little bit more hairy in the coming days. And in my opinion, as reporting on this stuff, is that my theory is going along with what we're getting ready to deal with space weather-wise. Time will tell, and we will see here in the next couple of days. So, yeah. Anyway. All right, so let's go ahead and change the subject real quick here, as I wanted to show you guys summer snow and wintry scenes around Yellowstone. I was actually proud of AccuWeather for even talking about this, because they do take their jabs at, don't get snow boots yet. It's still hot and thunderstorms out here in the Northeast, so it's still plenty of Indian summer. But anyway, they did mention about a ½ inch of snow fell here. The Big Sky, a popular skiing resort in Montana, also saw early snowfalls, about 8 inches in some spots around the western Denver area. And this is not uncommon to see snowfall in September, especially this time of the year. As I've mentioned before, we saw huge snows in Montana last year, around 46 inches. I think the year before we saw some 50-some inches. So it's not unusual to see snow, but, it did snow a little bit here, 8 inches, and that's something to mention because we've had a pretty warm summer here, but a short period of time, in my opinion. I feel like it got hot in July. It stayed hot a little bit in August, cooled down a bit, got kind of warm again in September. But I think October is going to show us an abrupt end to this happy-go-lucky warm weather. It's no longer the honeymoon phase. It's move over, sugar, winter's coming. And that, in my opinion, that's going to be coming here in the first part of October, here at the end of September. So let's take a look at our extended look here at the GFS before we take one more check at the volcano. This is the first few days of the GFS forecast. I only say trust about 4 to 6 days of this. Anything else after is speculation. But lots of high pressure setting up across the middle part of the United States, which, believe it or not, will cause it to be kind of like a heat dome thing going on here in the central part of the states. Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Kansas will see some warmer weather for a brief period of time. But a low pressure system moving across the Great Lakes through Ohio and into the Northeast could bring some flooding over the weekend here for the Northeast, moving into New York, upstate New York, into Vermont, New Hampshire, and then finally to our friends up in north in the Maine. After that, high pressure begins to settle once again across the East Coast. Some showers in the northern Great Lakes, but it stays above the Canadian border, so it remains dry for a few days here, all the way through Monday, September 27th, and mainly across the United States. We've got a system approaching on the northwest in Oregon, and then Florida dealing with some showers. But that's it, folks. Pretty dry. High pressure dominating all day Monday into Tuesday. More rain for the northwest. Some showers developing in the Gulf Coast region in Texas by Tuesday of next week. And that's where I say that's where we'll leave it. So one major system moving through the northeast that could drop a lot of rain. A couple of showers across the south. Other than that, pretty dry weather, folks. The northwest, though, starting to look like almost a winter pattern with that rain, heavy rain, and snow to the north with their brothers up north in Canada. Snow shower chances look to be possible at the beginning of October. And this is where I'm saying that at the beginning of October, you will definitely see the change in direction of temperatures being nice and pleasant and warm and on the sunny side. As far as where we are on temperatures for La Nina, well, right now we are 0.362 below baseline. So we are not officially in a La Nina right now, but we are definitely within the boundaries of a La Nina watch. And folks, it looks like it's going to be likely to see a La Nina this winter. So on top of the fact that we're dealing with low solar activity, which if you look back at the empirical data and back in history, we can prove that there has been colder weather during low solar activity, especially during winters. We've been able to prove that through countless videos, and we're approaching that now as well. We're dealing with possibly some solar storms that could jolt some seismic activity. What's significance in that? Well, like I said, a big enough volcanic eruption could cause things as big as the year without a summer like we had in the Northeast in 1816 because of Mount Tambora. So when you have a approaching La Nina, we have several volcanoes going off, lots of ash plumes into the atmosphere continuing to interact with highly charged particles, aka cosmic rays, creating cloud nucleation and basically providing steroids to all forms of precipitation, folks. Instead, you'll see it in mainstream media as them hijacking this event and others as man-made climate change, and that's simply not the facts. In fact, they couldn't even tell you how these downpours happen. They'll blame it on warmer temperatures. They won't break it down to the science of particulates in the atmosphere, water vapor droplets, and what, if any, effects does solar forcing have on their forecast range. And they won't tell you because they don't know. Some of these guys really don't know. They're puppets. And they feed this garbage to us every day about how this is a hothouse. And now the new narrative is starting, and I hate to be that guy, but I saw it on Twitter. Be ready for it, folks. I'm telling you right now. Global warming causes cold winters. It's starting to fly around as we speak right now on Twitter. Judah Cohen, a guy who I respect. He does great work on ocean oscillations and the polar vortex. He's always accurate on cold weather. He never overhypes it, but he never undersells it. But he is part of this campaign that global warming is causing extreme colder weather. What's causing extreme colder weather this year, folks? A couple of things. La Nina is one. All the cloud nucleation and the volcanoes going off will contribute. Another huge factor is how wavy the jet stream is because of lower solar wind. We are usually in low solar wind activity than we are high. And finally, we have a weak polar jet setting up for this winter. And if you hear weak polar vortex, you're thinking, well, what do you got to worry about, Jake? The polar vortex, that's where the cold air comes from. If it's weak, that means it's going to be weak cold air, right? No. A weak cold or weaker polar vortex allows Arctic air to go down further south than it usually does. So in other words, if this is a really weak polar vortex, what happened in Texas last year is more likely to repeat itself for just as long, if not longer. That's what that means. So when you hear about a weak polar vortex, that's never a good thing if you don't like cold weather. I don't care if you live in Tennessee or Kansas or Texas. A weak polar vortex will allow shots of this deep, deep cold air to arrive in areas like Texas that's never seen Arctic air before. 300 people died from this cold weather event. They reported 30 and told you 6 months later that 300 people had died from this event. Lack of prep? Maybe. You would say, well, the insulation has to be good, right? Because they have to have the AC running all the time. It's hotter than hell down in Texas. Well, you're right on that too. So why did everything fail? And that's a huge problem, folks, because as we get further into this grand solar minimum, we're going to start seeing more of these kind of events, and maybe not just in Texas every year. Maybe Georgia gets hit one. Maybe Macon, Georgian. I don't mean to offend anybody from Macon or scare them, but who knows? Odd areas that don't see freezing temperatures like that. It's possible to see that between now and the next 30 years. I know we've talked a lot about grand solar minimums. What is a grand solar minimum? What's a Maunder minimum? You hear the term little ice age and you think right away the day after tomorrow. And I'm telling you, it's not that exactly. Yes, we will see some extreme cold weather. We will see some extreme snowfalls, historic snowfalls during grand solar minimums, such as we did during Maunder minimum, historic crop failure, historic famine. But grand solar minimums don't necessarily mean an ice age. We will see conditions that make you think it's as cold as it was in an ice age. And really, on the big picture of things, we're technically still in a technical ice age. But the point we're trying to make is we're trying to prepare people here for the next few decades. And not just to watch our YouTube channels, but buy the books. Read, learn how to survive in the wilderness. Read books about camping in the wild without that much supplies. Read books about how to grow. Read books about how to cure meat. I'm telling you, it's the most valuable tool out there. Yes, it's nice and easy to watch a YouTube video. You sit down, you turn it on, push play, and you hear all this information. It's great, and I'm not knocking that. But I'm telling you, down the road, there's something ever wrong that goes with this grid. You'll thank me to have all these books in your home and prepared and know what to do and how to stay warm and how to feed your family during challenging times, because you never know. You may have a storm that knocks out your power grid in your town or your part of the country for several weeks. It's a possibility, folks. And with solar activity as low as it has been and continues to look like it's going to be that way, all I'm saying is buckle up. This could be a very historic winter in the making. All right, let's take one more look at our volcano, the star of the show right now. And the hope is that this star does not get any more dangerous. It stays the way it is. It's already destroyed 166 homes. That's 166 too many. Over 5,500 people have been evacuated thus far. And that's not counting the newest evacuations for La Liguana, as they are now evacuating folks because of the increased flow from this volcano eruption. Like I said, as of Monday, things change so rapidly. But as of Monday morning, an official had said that we are appearing to slow down on the eruption. As of tonight at 16:50 local time, as the lava flow seems to increase, new vents are feared might open up, and the town of La Liguana is now being evacuated. So things can change even more. Let's hope they change for the better here in the next 24 to 36 hours. But I'm going to go ahead and keep my eyes on space weather and see how this next CME is going to impact Earth. Keep my eyes on the KP indices. Also watch for the incoming solar wind from this Earth-facing coronal hole that could also send a jolt through our magnetosphere and affect possible eruptions and earthquakes as well. Again, no coincidence that we have 3 new volcanoes going off during a period of time where all this action is happening with our sun. 3 sunspots, CMEs, coronal holes. I mean, and the thickness of the density right now, the way our atmosphere is being bombarded right now. Even though solar winds are slow, we are still getting a thick stream of plasma entering the atmosphere. I want to say hello to a few folks. Richard from New Mexico, good to see you out there. Patricia, hello. Sue Hayes, Seth Rupke, very valued viewer of ours. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight. Knife Collector, Shirley Davis, hello. Lots of brand new faces out here, guys. Love seeing that. Keep it coming. If you guys like what you're seeing tonight, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. YouTube does not do a very good job at notifying our subscribers about our upcoming shows. So make sure you hit that subscriber bell to all on notifications. And if you wouldn't mind, give us a like or two, folks. It'd be greatly appreciated. Also helps the algorithms to pick up on things that are definitely worthy of broadcasting on YouTube, which I feel like we try to bring the most quality reporting when it comes to worldwide events. And we try to stick to the facts and not sensationalize events. There's enough scary things going on in the world. You need a place where you can come and get the answers straight. Also want to appreciate Seth Repke. I did not see this until now, but thank you very, very much for your kind donation to our channel. Guys, Mari and I, a lot going on between this channel, working on the channel, working on our future home, which we should be done within the next few days, but a lot has been happening to our family and our friends and families. David Birch is still in need of prayers, and if you guys can still reach out and support him as well, that would be great. But throw some prayers at the Riley family too, because I think everybody has seen their share of fatigue in this household from these projects with the house and, of course, this channel. And also want to wish Matt from Nebraska, Matt Bros, I hope he is feeling better. He was in a bad accident a couple weeks. Thankfully, he was not seriously injured, just some stitches and a pretty bad headache. So, Matt, hope you're doing well too. And all of our GSM family and friends out there, we hope you're all doing well. Thoughts and prayers with anyone who might be struggling with any kind of challenges, whether it be natural disaster or health. Again, these are trying times, and what a time to be alive in as we speak right now. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. Please tune in, I think, tomorrow for another Grand Solar Minimum update. And we will definitely continue to watch the volcano. If something changes or something bigger happens, we will be live, even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning. If I get an alert, something else is happening, it needs to be reported, we will definitely be here to give you the full update. And wow, look at this recent explosion here from this vent. And as things are still jumping off here at this main vent where the lava flow has been consistent. So we'll keep our eyes on it. And again, thanks for tuning into the Grand Solar Minimum channel. We will talk soon.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.